presenting the Ananda Portland Readers Theaters with Open House by P.G. Wodehouse.
Most gratifying.
Good news?
Excellent. The letter was from my nephew, Eustace, who is attached to our embassy in Switzerland. He has fully justified the family's hopes.
I say, doing well, is he?
Capitally. Odd, now that the young fellow has made so signal a success, to think what a business we had getting him to undertake the job. At one time it seemed as if it would be hopeless to try to persuade him. Indeed, if fate had not taken a hand...
Didn't he want to become attached to the embassy?
The idea revolted him. Here was this splendid opening, dangled before his eyes through the influence of his godfather, Lord Nubble of Knop, and he stoutly refused to avail himself of it.
I want to stay in London. I like London, and I'm jolly well not going to stir from the good old place.
To the rest of his relations, this obduracy seemed mere capriciousness. But I, possessing the young fellow's confidence, knew that there were solid reasons behind his decision. In the first place, he knew himself to be the favorite nephew of his Aunt Georgiana, relict of the late Sir Cuthbert Beasley Bart, a woman of advanced years and more than ample means. And secondly, he had fallen in love with a woman of the name of Marcella Tyrwhitt.
A nice sort of chump I should be, buzzing off to Switzerland. I've got to stay on the spot, haven't I, to give Aunt Georgiana the old oil from time to time. And if you suppose a fellow can woo a woman like Marcella Tyrwhitt, through the medium of the post, you are vastly mistaken. Something occurred this morning which makes me think she's weakening. And that's just the moment when the personal touch is so essential. Come one, come all, this rock shall fly from its firm base as soon as I...
What had occurred that morning, I learned later, was that Marcella Tyrwhitt had rung my nephew on the telephone.
Hello? Is that Eustace?
Yes, it is.
I say, Eustace, I'm leaving for Paris tomorrow.
You aren't.
Yes, I am, you silly ass, and I've got the tickets to prove it. Listen, Eustace, there's something I want you to do for me. You know my canary?
William?
William is right. And you know my peak?
Reginald.
Reginald is correct. Well, I can't take them with me because William hates traveling, and Reginald would have to go into quarantine for 6 months when I got back, which would make him froth with fury. So will you give them a couple of beds at your flat while I'm away?
Absolutely. We keep an open house, we Moliners.
You won't find them any trouble. There's nothing of the athlete about Reginald. A brisk walk of 20 minutes in the park sets him up for the day. As regards exercise, and as for food, give him whatever you're having yourself. Raw meat, puppy biscuits, and so on. Don't let him have cocktails. They unsettle him.
Righto. The scenario seems pretty smooth so far. How about William?
Regarding William, he's a bit of an eccentric in the food line. Heaven knows why, but he likes birdseed and groundsel. I can't stand the stuff myself. You get birdseed at a birdseed shop.
And groundsel, no doubt, at the ground sellers.
Exactly. And you have to let William out of his cage once or twice a day so that he can keep his waistline down by fluttering about the room. He comes back all right as soon as he's had his bath. Do you follow all that?
like a leopard.
I bet you don't.
Yes, I do. Brisk, walk, Reginald. Brisk, flutter, William.
You've got it. All right then. And remember that I set a high value on those two, so guard them with your very life.
Absolutely. Rather, you bet. I should say so. Positively.
Ironical, of course, it seems now, in the light of what occurred subsequently, but my nephew told me that that was the happiest moment of his life. He loved Marcella with every fiber of his being, and it seemed to him that...
If she selected me out of all her circle for this intensely important trust, it must mean that she regards me as a man of solid worth, one she can count on.
He was delighted also for another reason. Much as he would miss Marcella Tyrwhitt, he was glad that she was leaving London for a while, because his love life at the moment had gotten into something of a tangle, and her absence would just give him nice time to do a little adjusting and unscrambling. Until a week or so before, he had been deeply in love with another woman, a certain Beatrice Watterson. And then, one night at a studio party, he had met Marcella, and had instantly discerned in her an infinitely superior object for his passion. It is this sort of thing that so complicates life for the young man about town. He bestows a strong man's love on woman A and is just congratulating himself when along comes woman B, whose very existence he had not suspected, and he finds that he has picked the wrong one and has to work like a beaver to make the switch.
What I want to do at this point is taper off with Beatrice, thus clearing the stage and leaving myself free to concentrate my whole soul on Marcella.
And Marcella's departure from London would afford him the necessary leisure for the process. So, by the way of tapering off with Beatrice, he took her to a tea the day Marcella left.
Eustace, it will be my birthday next Sunday.
Oh, I say, really? Come and have a bite of lunch at my flat.
Oh, I would love it.
I must give you something top hole as a present.
Oh, no, really, you mustn't.
Yes. Dash it, I am resolved.
Which started the tapering process nicely. For Eustace knew that on that very Sunday he was due down at his Aunt Georgiana's at Whittleford-cum-Beggsley-on-Sea for the weekend. So that when Beatrice arrived at his flat, all eager for lunch, and found not only that her host was not there, but that there was not a birthday present in sight of any description, she would be deeply offended and would become cold and distant and aloof.
Tact is what you need on these occasions. You want to gain the desired end without hurting anybody's feelings.
After tea, he came back to his flat and took Reginald for a brisk walk and gave William a flutter and went to bed that night feeling that
God is in his heaven and all's right with the world.
the next day was warm and sunny, and it struck Eustace that
William will appreciate it if I put his cage out on the windowsill so that he can get the good old rays into his system. Then I shall take Reginald for his saunter.
he did this, and upon returning to the flat, felt that he had earned the morning bracer. He instructed Blenkinsop, his man, to bring the materials, and soon peace was reigning in the home to a noticeable extent. William was trilling lustily on the windowsill. Reginald was resting from his exertions under the sofa. And Eustace had begun to sip his whiskey and soda without a care in the world, when the door opened and Blenkinsop announced a visitor.
Mr. Orlando Wotherspoon.
Eustace was puzzled. The name Wotherspoon had struck no chord, and he could not recollect ever having seen the man before in his life. And Orlando Wotherspoon was not the sort of person who, once seen, is easily forgotten. He was built on large lines and seemed to fill the room to overflowing. He was preceded by a mustache of the outsized soup strainer kind. And his eyes were of the piercing type which one associates with owls, sergeant majors, and Scotland Yard inspectors. The expression in his eyes was that which comes into the eyes of suburban householders when they survey slugs among their lettuces.
Oh, hello.
Mr. Mulliner,
I shouldn't wonder.
my name is Wotherspoon.
Yes, so Bleckensop was saying.
I live in the block of flats across the gardens.
Yes, have a pretty good time.
In answer to your question, my life is uniformly tranquil. This morning, however, I saw a sight that shattered my peace of mind and sent my blood racing hotly through my veins.
Too bad when it's like that. What made your blood carry on in the manner described?
I will tell you, Mr. Mulliner. I was seated in my window a few minutes ago, drafting out some notes for my forthcoming speech at the annual dinner of our Dumb Chums League, of which I am a perpetual vice president, when, to my horror, I observed a fiend torturing a hapless bird. For a while I gazed in appalled stupefaction, while my blood ran cold.
Hot, you said.
First hot and then cold. I seethed with indignation at this fiend.
I don't blame you. If there's any chap I bar, it's a fiend. Who was this fellow?
Mulliner, thou art the man.
What?
Yes, you, Mulliner, you bird bullier. Mulliner, the scourge of our feathered friends. What do you mean placing a canary on the windowsill in the full force of the burning sun? How would you feel if some pop-eyed assassin left you out in the sun without a hat to fry where you stood? It's men like you, Mulliner, who block the wheels of the world's progress and render societies like our Dumb Chums League necessary.
I thought the Ballybird liked it.
Mulliner, you lie.
By the way, have a spot.
I will not have a spot.
Right. No spot. But coming back to the agenda, you wrong me, Wotherspoon. Foolish, mistaken, I may have been, but God is my witness, I meant well. Honestly, I thought William would be tickled pink if I put him out in the sun.
And as he spoke, the dog, Reginald, hearing voices, crawled out from under the sofa in the hope that something was going on which might possibly culminate in a coffee sugar. At the sight of Reginald's honest face, Eustace brightened. A cordial friendship had sprung up between these two based on mutual respect. He extended a hand and chirruped. Unfortunately, Reginald, suddenly getting a close-up of Wotherspoon's mustache, and being convinced by the sight of it that plots against his person were imminent, uttered a piercing scream and bolted from the room. Orlando Wotherspoon put the worst construction on the incident.
Ha, Mulliner! It seems you're not content with merely inflicting fiendish torments on canaries, but that you also must slake your inhuman fury on this innocent dog, so that he runs howling at the mere sight of you.
I don't think it's a mere sight of me he objects to. In fact, I've frequently seen him take quite a long, steady look at me without wincing.
Then to what, pray tell, do you attribute the animal's visible emotion?
Well, the fact is, I fancy the root of the trouble is that he doesn't much care for that mustache of yours.
Are you venturing, Mulliner, to criticize my mustache?
No. I admire it.
I would be sorry to think that you were aspersing my mustache, Mulliner. My grandmother has often described it as the handsomest in the West End of London. But perhaps you regard my grandmother as prejudiced. Possibly you consider her a foolish old woman whose judgments should be lightly set aside.
Absolutely not.
I'm glad. you would have been the third man I have thrashed within an inch of his life for insulting my grandmother. Or is it the fourth? I need to check my books and find out.
Don't bother.
Well, Mulliner, I will leave you, but let me tell you this. You have not heard the last from me. Do you see this? I keep a black list of fiends who must be closely watched. Your Christian name, if you please.
Eustace,
Your height
5'10".
and your weight.
Well, I was around 150 when you came in. I think I'm a bit lighter now.
Okay, let's say 145. Thank you, Mulliner. Everything is in order now. You have been entered on the list of suspects upon whom I make a practice of paying surprise visits. From now on, you will never know when I may or may not knock on your door.
Anytime you're passing.
Our Dumb Chums League is not unreasonable in these matters. We handle fiends with restraint and deliberation. For the first offense, we are content to warn. After that, I must remember when I get home to post you a copy of our latest booklet. It sets forth in detail what happened to J.B. Stokes of 9 Manglesbury Mansion, West Kensington, on his ignoring our warning to refrain from throwing vegetables at his cat. Good morning, Mr. Mulliner. Don't bother seeing me to the door.
Young men of my nephew Eustace's age are essentially resilient. This interview had taken place on Thursday. By Friday, he had practically forgotten the entire episode, and by Saturday, he was his own merry self once more. It was on this Saturday, as you may remember, that Eustace was to go down to Woodford-cum-Beggsley-on-Sea to spend the weekend with his Aunt Georgiana. Eustace looked forward to the trip. Apart from the fact that he would be getting himself in solid with a woman who combined the possession of £100,000 in home rails with a hereditary tendency to rheumatic trouble of the heart, he also knew that during this time Beatrice would have called at the empty flat and gone away in a highly piqued condition, leaving him free to express his individuality in the matter of Marcella. He whistled gaily as he watched Beckensop pack.
You have thoroughly grasped the program outlined for the period of my absence, Blenkinsop.
Yes, sir.
See that Master William does his fluttering.
Yes, sir.
And see that Master Reginald for the daily stroll.
Yes, sir.
And don't get them mixed. I mean, don't let Reginald flutter and take William for a walk.
Oh, no, sir.
Right. And on Sunday, Blenkinsop, tomorrow, that is to say, a young lady will be turning up for lunch. Explain to her that I'm not here, and give her anything she wants.
Very good, sir.
Eustace set out upon his journey to his aunt's with a light heart. Arrived at Woodford-cum-Beggsley-on-Sea, he passed a restful weekend playing two-person solitaire with his aunt, tickling her cat under the ear from time to time, and walking along the esplanade. On Monday, he caught the 1:40 train back to London, his aunt cordial to the last.
I shall be passing through London on my way to Harrogate next Friday. Perhaps you will give me tea?
I shall be more than delighted, Aunt Georgiana. It has often been a great grief to me that you allow me so few opportunities of entertaining you in my little home. At 4:30 next Friday, right?
Everything seemed to him to be shaping so satisfactorily that his spirits were at their highest. Arriving back home at his flat, he entered in a very nearly rollicking manner.
What ho, Blenkinsop? Everything all right?
Yes, sir. I trust you have enjoyed an agreeable weekend, sir?
Topping. How are the dumb chums?
Master William is in robust health, sir.
Splendid. And Reginald?
Of Master Reginald, I cannot speak with the authority of first-hand knowledge, sir, as the young lady removed him yesterday.
Removed him?
Yes, sir. Took him away. If you recall your parting instructions, sir, you enjoined upon me that I should give the young lady anything she wanted. She selected Master Reginald.
Get her on the phone. Quick.
Impossible, I fear, sir. The young lady informed me she was leaving on the Paris train by 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Blackensop, give me your attention. Don't let your mind wander.
Yes, sir.
We've got to do some close thinking. Some very close thinking.
In simple words, Eustace explained the position of affairs, finally saying,
You see the position I am in? We must put our heads together, Blackensop. How can I account satisfactorily to Miss Tyrwhitt for the loss of her dog?
Would it not be feasible to inform the young lady that you took the animal for a walk in the park, that it slipped its collar and ran away?
Very nearly right, Blackensop, but not quite. What actually happened is that you took it for a walk, and, like a perfect chump, went and lost it.
Well, really, sir.
Blackensop, if there is one drop of the old feudal spirit in your system, now is the time to show it. Stand by me in this crisis, and you will not be the loser.
Very good, sir.
You realize, of course, that when Miss Tyrwhitt returns, it will be necessary for me to curse you quite freely in her presence. But you must read between the lines and take it all in a spirit of pure badinage.
Very good, sir.
Righto, then, Blackensop. Oh, by the way, my aunt will be coming to tea on Friday.
Very good, sir.
These preliminaries settled, Eustace was still far from feeling easy in his mind.
Women, in moments of mental stress, are always apt to spray the blame a good deal. And while Blackensop will presumably get the mainstream, there might well be a few drops for me left over.
Naturally, therefore, he brooded a good deal during the next few days, causing him to be absent-minded. He was sitting like this in the club one afternoon when suddenly he realized what day it was.
It's Friday. Aunt Georgiana's coming to tea in my flat in about 3 minutes.
A speedy cab took him quickly home, and he was relieved on entering the flat to find that his aunt was not there. The tea table had been set out, but the room was empty except for William, who was trying over a song in his cage. Greatly relieved, Eustace went to the cage and unhooked the door, and William, after jumping up and down for a few moments in the eccentric way canaries do, hopped out and started to flutter to and fro.
Cucumber sandwiches, sir. Ladies are usually strongly addicted to them.
Eustace nodded. Many a time he had seen his aunt fling herself on them like a starving wolf.
Has her ladyship not arrived?
Yes, sir, but she stepped down the street to dispatch a telegram. Would you desire me to serve cream, sir, or will the ordinary milk suffice?
Cream? Milk?
I have laid out an extra saucer.
Blackensop, you appear to be talking of something, but it does not penetrate. What is all this babble of milk and cream, and why do you speak riddles of an extra saucer?
For the cat, sir.
Oh, what cat?
Her ladyship was accompanied by her cat, Frances.
Oh, her cat.
Yes, sir.
Well, in regards to nourishment, it gets milk, same as the rest of us, and likes it, but serve it in the kitchen because of the canary.
Master Francis is not in the kitchen, sir.
Well, in the pantry or the bedroom or wherever he is.
When I last saw Master Francis, sir, he was enjoying a cooling stroll on the windowsill. Excuse me, sir. I fancy I heard the front door bell.
Yeah, here. Hi. My gosh. I say, Dash it!
Eustace was prey to the liveliest agitation. A most unpleasant position he would be in if, in addition to having to admit to Marcella that he was one peak down on the general score, he also had to reveal that William, his sheet anchor, was inextricably mixed up with the gastric juices of a cat, which Marcella did not even know by sight. Francis gazed up at the canary with a steady, purposeful eye. His tail was twitching at the tip. Eustace could see that at any moment Francis would launch himself into the air in the bird's direction. Eustace lost no time. Springing quickly to the tea table, he rummaged among its contents for something that would serve him as ammunition in the fray. The first thing he put his hand on was the plate of cucumber sandwiches. These, with all the rapidity at his command, he discharged one after the other. He followed them with a sultana cake, 3 muffins, and a lump of sugar. But none of it seemed to have any effect on Francis. Desperate, Eustace did what he should have done at the very outset. Grabbing the tablecloth, he edged round with extraordinary stealth till he was in the cat's immediate rear, and dropping it over him just as he was tensing his muscles for the grand leap. Then, flinging himself on the mixture of cat and tablecloth, he wound them into a single convenient parcel. Eustace felt exceedingly pleased. It seemed to him that he had shown resource, intelligence, and an agility highly creditable in one who had not played rugby football for years. A good deal of bitter criticism was filtering through the cloth. But he overlooked it. He knew Francis would come around when his judgment was not warped by the sight of canaries. He was about to murmur a word or two in the hope of inducing the animal to behave less like a gyroscope, when looking around he perceived that he was not alone. Standing, grouped about the doorway, were his Aunt Georgiana, Marcella Tyrwhitt, and the well-remembered figure of Orlando Wotherspoon.
Lady Beasley, Mr. Witt, Mr. Orlando Wotherspoon. Tea is served, sir.
A wordless cry broke from Eustace's lips. The tablecloth fell from his nerveless fingers, and the cat Francis let out a scream and shot straight back to the kitchen. There was a pause. Eustace did not know quite what to say. He felt embarrassed. It was Orlando Wotherspoon who broke the silence.
So, up to your old games, Mr. Mulliner.
He threw cucumber sandwiches at my cat.
So I observe. And also, if I mistake not, a sultana cake and muffins.
Would you require fresh muffins, sir?
The case, in short, would appear to be on all fours with that of J.B. Stokes of 9 Manglesbury Mansion, West Kensington.
Listen, I can explain everything.
There is no need for explanations, Mulliner. The matter explains itself.
Well, if I may use your telephone, Eustace, I would like to ring up my lawyer and disinherit you for your treatment of my cat. But first, would you oblige me by thrashing him within an inch of his life?
I was about to do so, madam. If this young lady would kindly step aside.
More cucumber sandwiches, sir.
Wait!
If disapproving of scenes of violence, it is your intention, Miss Tyrwhitt, to... Any relation to my old friend Major General George Tyrwhitt of the Bluffs, by the way?
My uncle.
Oh, what a surprise. I was just having lunch with him yesterday.
It's a small world, after all.
It is indeed. So small that it is scarcely room in it for the likes of Mulliner, the cat slosher, and myself. I shall, therefore, do my humble best to eliminate him. And as I was saying, if Disapproving of scenes of violence, you are about to plead for the young man. It will, I fear, be useless. I can listen to no intercession. The regulations of our Dumb Chums League are very strict.
Intercession? What do you mean intercession? I wasn't going to intercede for this wambling misfit. I was going to ask for first whack.
Indeed. Might I inquire why?
Would you desire another sultana cake, sir?
I'll tell you why. Do you know what this man has done? I left my dog, Reginald, in his care, and he swore to guard and cherish him. And what occurred? My back was hardly turned when he went and gave him away as a birthday present to some foul female with the name of Beatrice something.
Let me explain.
I was in Paris, walking along the Champs-Élysées, and I saw this girl coming towards me with a peak, and I said, that peak looks extraordinarily like my Reginald. And then she came closer, and it was my Reginald, and I said, hey, what are you doing with my dog Reginald? And this woman said, what do you mean, your peak Reginald? This is my peak, Percival. And I got him as a birthday gift from a friend of mine named Eustace Mulliner. And I bounded onto the next aeroplane and came here to tear him into little shreds. And what I say is, it's a shame if I'm not allowed to go at him after all the trouble and expense I've been put
Believe me, Miss Tyrwhitt, there are few things I would not do for a niece of my old friend, Major General George Tyrwhitt of the Buffs. But this is an occasion when I must not step aside and allow a delicately nurtured woman to act in a manner so important as the one now on the agenda.
That's all very well, but all the way over, all during those long, weary hours in the aeroplane, I was buoying myself up by the thought of what I was going to do to Eustace Mulliner when we met. You see, I brought my heaviest parasol.
I fear that would hardly meet such a case as this. You had far better leave the conduct of this affair to me.
Did you say more muffins, sir?
So you see, dear, it would be so much better to leave the matter entirely in Mr. Wotherspoon's hands.
Any buttered toast, fancy cakes, or macaroons, sir?
Please go on, Mr. Wotherspoon.
Thank you so kindly, ma'am. I will now be delighted to...
And before anyone knew it, Eustace, who had been eyeing the open window, raced for it, leaped through, and made for the open spaces at an excellent rate of speed. That night, heavily cloaked and disguised in a false mustache, he called at my address, clamoring for a ticket to Switzerland. He arrived there some few days later, and ever since has stuck to his duties with unremitting energy. So much so that in that letter which you saw me reading, he informs me that
I have just been awarded the Order of Crimson Edelweiss. 3rd class, with crossed cuckoo clocks, carrying the right to yodel in the presence of the Vice President.
a great honor for so young a man. The end.